Okay, let's go live. It's James Smitty speaking, trainingsites.io. Claude just brought something out that is another one of those cool things that anyone who's creating educational content, whether you be a course creator or a traditional teacher, I think you're going to love this one. What is it? They're called connectors, and they remove probably the biggest headache that people using AI have. And that is like trying to make sense or use all of this cool research and all of this content that we create about specific topics. Now, I'm going to do a couple things here today. One of them is I did a video yesterday about using frameworks. So I'm going to show you how I created a framework to be able to share what it is I'm going to share today. The second thing is I'm going to show you how these connectors work. Specifically, I'm going to show you how I created almost a course in about 5 minutes using the connectors, and how you can turn the connectors on your site as well. So we're going to be looking at actually the Claude interface, and so that you see how it works. And I'll also make sure that if I haven't already, you can go to trainingsites.io/join. All of the prompts, results, and stuff are there for you to download. Now, just think about it for a second. If you are currently doing anything with AI, I know I've done videos on this before. It is an absolute nightmare just keeping track of all of the cool stuff that you run into. Now, for me personally, the way that I do it, and I'll just pull this up so that you can see it, rightly or wrongly, again, I have a project management tool that I use, and then the other one that I use on a regular basis is Google, of course, for keeping track of everything. I'm going to open up the screen. It might be a little bit small. I'll try and make it a little bit bigger, but I just wanted to give you kind of the idea of what this was about. So I have a folder here, and in the folder, there we go, a little bit bigger. In the folder, what I do is I keep track of every single YouTube video that I do. For example, this one right here is the Claude Connectors for Teaching. Here's another one here called the Campus Menu Mapping Framework, which we're going to learn about in a second. But what I do is I basically put all of my research, mind maps, PDFs, my content, other content, Google Docs, zip files, everything I put into these folders. And I have this folder, and at some point, I'm going, okay, well, I better make a course. So I'd like to make a course. And you may be able to use some tools, some of the ones like Notebook LM, and upload your content into a particular notebook and get some summaries of it, a podcast, that kind of thing. But in many cases, you're limited in some respect to the type of output that you get from it. And often I find myself that I get output from one particular tool, and then I'm copying or cutting and pasting it into another tool. And it's basically a series of cut and paste to be able to get what it is that I want. So here's the announcement actually that just came out from Claude. And this one came out, I think yesterday they dropped it. And again, I'll show you how to set this up and how it works. Now, and again, if you haven't seen this, there's two things. I did a video last week. They did this one right here. I'll open this one up. This one was called Advanced Claude for Education. And this one was neat because they set it up that they had basically a study buddy that worked using, I think the proper reference is Socratic teaching methods. There was basically an educational context to the chats that you had. So it was preemptively asking you, how did you come up with that? What did you think about? Did you consider that? How does that work? Why would you try it that way? So it was just a way to actually have it work in a way that would teach you as opposed to just responding to prompts. And again, one of the things that was neat here that kind of caught my eye here at the bottom of it was a student and educators will be able to connect Wiley and Panopatu, I don't know if that's a pronouncer one, using pre-built MCP servers. With these integrations, users can reference lecture transcripts and deep dive into their university's collections of authoritative, peer-reviewed content on Wiley, all within their conversation. So I'm going, wow, that's pretty cool. Wouldn't it be nice to have access to this content and be able to connect to it when we're prompting? Lo and behold, what comes out yesterday is, actually, let me go back to this one first. I'll show you what it was. Lo and behold, what comes up is this thing called And let me just do it. I'm on the page here. And again, I'll put the link so that you have it. Discover tools that work with Claude. Now, if you haven't heard before, there's a thing called MCP, which is Model Context Protocol. And basically, that's a way for Claude, the AI tool, to a common way or standard way to connect to all of these different tools and use the tools. So I use the analogy, for example, if you're a chef, you want to have, you want to have access to the frying pan, the different pots, the different utensils, the different bowls. When you're cooking something, you need all of this stuff. And in fact, it would be really be great to have a sous chef to do the pre-work for you, so you're just conducting things, right? Well, think of MCP as those individual tools, and the sous chef is the one that grabs the tool, does something in it, and brings it back to the chef when it's ready. And those tools use this MCP stuff, but for the life of me, I have no idea how to use MCP because I'm not a programmer, I'm not technical. I understand what it is, but to set up an MCP server or write code to it, no, not interested. So what they did, and this just came out yesterday, and today's the 15th, so this was the 14th. So what it is, and I'll zoom this up a little bit, says today we're introducing a new directory of tools that connect to Claude, which you can explore and try with a single click. We're also featuring new connectors built by our partners to remote services like Notion, Canva, Stripe, your local desktop. That's important. And Figma, Socket, Prism. So they have a whole bunch of them. And basically it says now Claude can have access to the same tools, data, and context that you do. Transferring it from being a helpful assistant into an informed AI collaborator that gives you more relevant responses that you can use it directly in your tools. And I don't know about you, but when I'm using any of the AI tools, it's often, you use special instructions, but every time that you're doing some kind of new prompt for a project or looking for a response, it's like you always have to add in or re-explain what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, what it wants to do. And the big thing that this does is it removes that need for having to provide context all of the time, because it has access to the context that is unique to you and all of the tools that you wanted to connect to. And the big one for me was the file system, because if I go back and take a look here, and I go back and I look at all of these different folders that I have, which ones are they? There's hundreds of YouTube videos that I've done, each with their own folder and each with their notes. So what does that mean to you if you're creating content for your students and or courses and or any materials that you're doing? It means now that your AI tool, in this case Claude, has direct access to it. So how do we get it? How do you get access, and what does it mean? So I'm going to open up a tab here and I'll just kind of show you. You should, first of all, I'm going to suggest that you update, and let me see if I've got it here so we can actually go and see it running on mine. You should go and update. I'll start Claude. I've got it in the browser, but I'm going to start the actual one so that we can go and see it. So I'm going to start Claude up so that the app starts and that we can see it. There we go. So it's going to open up here for me, and I now have a version of Claude. So what you need to do first is make sure that you have the most current version that's running. And if you haven't already, in the upper left-hand corner, it has check for updates. And I'm just going to click it. Oh, I got the latest version, which is cool. So here's what you need to do. In the main desktop app, if you look at search and tools, this little icon right here, it brings up this thing here, which are some of the things that are connected. In the past, we could do things like connect, drive search, Gmail, some other things. But if you look, there's some additional ones that I have here now. One of them is Canva. Another one is iMessage. Another one, this is the important one, is the file system. It is, at least for me, creating content. And then there's add connectors and then manage connectors. So what you need to do, just click this one, and then you're going to go to add connectors. And when you bring it up, you're going to see that those MCP connections that required understanding what was going on at a technical level, for the most part, are now built in. Now, at least some common ones are here, so let's take a look at them. We've got Asana, which is a project management tool. Same one for Jira and Tala. I always have trouble pronouncing that one. So these ones are, a lot of them are obviously are more business to business corporate ones, but here's the cool ones. Canva, Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, InVideo, Linear is for coders, PayPal, Notion, Stripe, Square, Zapier. And those ones are just available when you're on the web. Now, when you're in the desktop, you also have now available things like Stripe, Airtable, Apple Script directly in the browser, and there's some new ones since yesterday. Figma, if you're doing that, Apple Notes, I'm on a Mac, read and send iMessages, Chrome, so I have access to manipulate Chrome directly with Claude here. And this one is File System. What this means is I'm going to open this one up. I'm going to hit Manage Connectors here. And let me close this so you can see it as well. If I go back to the settings and I scroll down to the bottom, I want to make sure that you can see it. You can see there's Add Connectors, there's Manage Connectors as well. So I'm going to click Manage Connectors. And you can see that it brings up a little bit of a different screen, right? On mine, I've got these connectors that are here. GitHub is one, Canva, iMessage, and File System. So whenever you install them, you basically have to give some permissions, right? And in my case, what I'm going to do is I'll look at the file ones because that's a cool one for me. That's local files. And you can see I've got, hold it over here, it says no authorization is required for this connector. But if I want to go and play around with it, it's got tools and settings. And this is where I can say for the file manager, I can read files, read multiple files, write files, edit files, create a directory, list a directory, directory tree, and so on. So I've given it access to all of the pieces that I have on my file directory. Rightly or wrongly, that's the way that I'm testing. And I've set this up. I initially gave it only access to one folder, and it can do that stuff, is my YouTube directory, which has all of my content in it. So you're probably saying, wow, that's cool, but what can I do with it? What does that really mean to me if I'm going to create some content or have some fun with it? Well, I thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if I could just give Claude access to a folder and say, hey, create a course. Hey, create a course and create the social media posts or the slide deck that I want to use or the content that I want to use on Canva. It has access to this now, right? So let's go see what happened when I did exactly that. In my case, what I did, and I'm just going to open this one up, and we'll actually take a look at why this is important. I was playing around in ChatGPT, just doing research for this particular one. And again, this is the one that it was kind of neat because yesterday I did a video about why I think frameworks are important. And someone had asked me about, give me an example, like a clearer example of how a framework is. And what I did, I'll put the link to this as well, because I wanted to show you how this particularly works. And this is the framework that I put together. I'll make it a little bit bigger if I can. On this one, I don't know how to make it bigger. So this is the prompt that I left. You're a learning design coach, and I said, your job is to turn any topic into 46-step framework. And then basically I said, teaching online course creators how to use AI's new connector features to remove time wasting, cutting and pasting research and documents to create their educational content. And I put it in, and basically what I got was a framework. And it was LinkFast was the framework, and it only used link is basically the way to do what it is that I'm showing you today, an easy way to remember it. But it was only had 4 to 6, and it was a little bit short, so I said, you know what, I'm going to redo it with 10, and it actually created a framework called the connect method. Now I'm using connectors with Claude, and I've now got the connect method for frameworks. Collect the sources, organize the folders, name the access, narrate the theme. So what's the purpose of it? Grouped up, expand the drafts, create visuals, trigger, publish. So I've now got an acronym or a framework to actually do to put that all together, which is pretty cool, and putting it there. So, I was playing around with this. I had it together and I thought, well, you know what? Wouldn't it be great? Or what would happen? If I actually went and said, you know what, I'm going to, let me just move this out of the way here. I'm just going to go and I'm going to play around with this and see if I can actually create something that makes sense for a course creator. So here's what I did. In my case, I went to, and I think I did it in this one right here. Let me pull it up here. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's what I did. So what I did is I said, you know what, I'm going to think of a little workflow putting together about what I would like to do if I had access to the file system. Now remember, there was Canva, there was Notion, there was a whole bunch of other tools there, but I was just focusing on the file system just to kind of let you think about how this would work. And I basically give it a prompt, and the prompt that I used was, from the campus menu mapping framework, in my Google Drive, generate an 8-lesson micro course titled AI-Powered Communities using all the files in the folder Campus Menu Mapping Framework. I just did it. And I said, for each lesson, give the title, a one-word sentence objective, 3 talking points, citing the supporting files, 1 reflective question, and I said save as a PDF named this. Now, I could have said update it or add it to my Notion course place or anywhere that I'm using in Notion if I have a template. If I had an open API, for example, or I had a LMS that had an MCP server or connection available, even using MCP and not one of the ones that are here, I could have said, hey, create the course and then put it here as a course and have it published. But in my case, I said, you know what, let's do this. And then I later said, create some content to support it with Canva. And it took me a couple tries, not because it wasn't working, but because the servers were too busy at Canva. And you can see I did a whole bunch of different copies trying to get it to work. I finally did get it to work, and this is what happened. So let me put this up to the side so we can actually see it, and I'll make it as big as I can, because this is one of those ones where you just go, yes, this is awesome. I can use this. It's going to save me a whole bunch of time, whole bunch of overwhelm, and it's going to allow me to create valuable content using frameworks, applying frameworks, but having that busy work done for me, as opposed to me having to take multiple steps. I've now got my sous chef, that assistant, giving me access to all of these tools without all of the technical hassles that are involved. So here's what it did. It went and searched Google Drive. Great, I found the folder. Let's search all the files with the specific folder to see what content we're working with. Remember, I didn't give it any information about the files. I just said, here's the folder. Go look at the folder. And it went through and it said, perfect, I can see we have several key documents in the folder. Let me fetch the full content of each document to get a complete understanding before creating the micro course. Fetch the files, and it went through them, and it went through a whole bunch of different pieces and docs that were in there. And then it said, perfect, I have all the content from the mapping framework. Let me create an 8-lesson micro course based on the rich material. I'll structure it to flow logically from understanding the shift to building a complete AI-powered community. Now, one of the things is I gave it a very basic prompt, right? If you had a framework that you wanted to use, and or you had a particular style or format, all you have to do is change the prompt that you gave it. I used this as an example. It will expand on, contract on, include anything that you want, just like you're regularly prompting an AI tool. But in this case, it's basing the content on what's in your file folder. It's not going out into the ether and getting some stuff. This is your content, your framework, your research, all of the stuff that you're really excited about. So here's what it did. Basically created the course. And this is the outline that it came up with, just so that we can play around with it. And again, this was the stuff for the PDF, and it was the overview of what the course was. And I asked for 3 key talking points, a 1-sentence objective, and a reflection question. So that's what it gave me. If I wanted to put more, I could have put more. I could use this, for example, as something that worked along with a video that I was doing. I could have asked it to include a script or talking points, anything else that I wanted, but it was based on my content. So basically put this together. It's got the 8 sessions, and they're built out pretty well, right? Why AI killed traditional menus, which was what I was talking about. campus menu framework foundation, which I included in the documents, define the campus purpose, choose your AI enhanced community types, and I had the 5 core communities. Again, this was in the other video that I'd done on the weekend. And then we had lesson 5, plan your AI monetization system, build your campus structure. These are all things that we did. So I had this right here. I got my micro course, but I was going, man, wouldn't it be great if I had some additional material for that? See, a course with just a document like this isn't enough. We need some other stuff. Maybe you do slides, maybe you do talking points, maybe you do social media with it. There's a whole bunch of additional pieces that you would create with any kind of educational content. And a lot of times people use Canva. That could be an infographic, it could be anything to support this. If you're doing an audio, if you're doing a podcast, if you're doing any kind of video screen shares or talking heads. In fact, even if you were going to do this as any kind of live course, or this was something to work through in some kind of cohort that you could use with the students. So it said, let me export the PDF, and it started going through all of the different pieces. So it has a URL that it basically created for this course. I don't know why it did this, but it put it together. And then it says, let me continue the import process. I'll create a properly formatted PDF document using Canva's design generation tool instead. I connected it to Canva. It's created the content. What it's doing now is going, hey, we're going to talk to Canva. Canva's one of my assistants, one of my sous chefs. I'm going to give the content to it, and I want Canva to do some stuff. And it tried to generate the design, and it basically was giving talking points, structured lesson formats, objectives, reflection questions, and it was putting it together. Now, one of the things that happened, this came out yesterday, I guess. It had a little bit of trouble doing it. Part of the reason, I know why, but I just haven't had time to fix it yet. But it's got it there, and it's got the pieces, and they're put together with all of the stuff in some slide decks, and it was created. It tried to generate the design. It found actually some design options, so it went and did a search of Canva to find some templates that fit the course. First design option, and was having trouble fetching it out, and I'll show you why in a second. So it tried to create a new document, and it was trying to create one. It did. It was able to do it, and one more approach, and it went through. So it found the one that it wanted, and it was trying to export it as available. And here's where it ran into some trouble. It had the document that was actually created as slide decks, but what happened is when I set up my Canva connection, I didn't give the settings available for writing content in Canva. So if I'd done that, it would have been able to use the content that was here and actually put it into slides. And that's basically what I wanted, using the talking points that were here. So I want you just to think about this for a second. We're in a situation where 5 months ago, we were playing around with, here's a cool prompt, give me a response with something I could use as some lesson text. We've been talking about AI agents and being able to give multiple tasks each to agents and have them come back with stuff. Now we're in a situation today where we have us as the connector, the collector, the curator of all of this great content, and all we're doing is organizing it in clean folders with the processes, with the frameworks that we like to teach with, that we have experienced and want to be able to provide for outcomes. And we're basically using Claude to say, hey, create a course, create this, create that, educational content, use these formats, use these tools, and place it there. This is one of those ones where we showed some connectors that were available, some of the ones that were there. Those connectors are 15 or 20 of them today, the day it was after launched. There's actually websites now that have MCP servers, directories of them for connecting to everything. So not only are we going to have access to 2 frying pans and a bowl now, if we've got a sous chef, we're going to have a complete kitchen and as many sous chefs doing as many things, using as many tools as we need to create the content that we want. This is an exciting time. I'm going to put the links to all of the materials I did today. If you haven't already, make sure to join the community where all of that material and my cheat sheets are available for you. Again, it's free to join. I'd love to have you there. Like and subscribe to the channel and stay tuned because I got a whole bunch of additional great videos that's all about the stuff that has just come out Monday this week. Take care and expect the best. It's James from trainingsites.io.